Hi, everybody. We should be live. Welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today for to help us launch the new books out from Omnidawn Publishing, which is always a cause for celebration. Today, we welcome new books by José Felipe Alvergue, Cal Bedient, John Cross, Keith Jones, Maria Nazos, and L.M. Rivera. As always, when Omnidawn authors gather, we have an abundance of talent and a striking range of styles here today, and I ask that you please show them some love in the chat. My name is Evan Karp. I'm director of Quiet Lightning. We're a literary nonprofit based in San Francisco since 2009. I want to start by thanking you each for being here and supporting this series, as well as local nonprofit press and Bay Area treasure Omnidawn Publishing. Twice a year, we gather here to celebrate Omnidawn's new titles, and it's an anchor in this crazy world that personally I've come to appreciate and look forward to. A convergence to start off the new year in January and a reset at half past in July. If you value the work that you hear today, please know there is nothing you can do more supportive than to buy the books. Every purchase helps both Omnidawn and the authors directly and makes it possible for the press to continue. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say here that art saves lives, you guys, and not just the lives of the people who make it. Poetry and small press literature, particularly, are very real kinds of front lines. If they're dear to you, please support Omnidawn and these authors if you can. So here is how today's event will go. Each author will read from their work. I'll be dropping their bios into the chat along with links to their books so you can find out more. There are also live links just beneath this video. Each author will read for up to 10 minutes and we'll go without a break. Again, I encourage you to show the authors some love in the chat and help me welcome them all here. I'll be over in just a minute if anyone's having any tech issues. So authors, I welcome you here again today and congratulate you on your new books. Jose, I'll turn it over to you to start us off. Thanks so much for kicking things off. And everybody else, welcome. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Evan, and thank you all for coming. Los marcianos llegaron ya y llegaron bailando ricacha, ricacha, ricacha. Así llaman en Marte el cha-cha-cha. There's a photo of my mother in Disneyland, and it must be from the early 1980s. It would have been our first time after migrating to America. She rides a teal cup above the ground and spins, which I can tell from the blur, across the trees behind her face, shockingly, clear and still for the camera to have captured. This is a moment, despite limitations to vision, what is only seen briefly and for the first time, which is to say, an impression. Only light and aperture and timing on the part of the seer. Los guanacos llegaron ya y llegaron bailando ricacha. Once at a Costco, a man yelled at my mother to get out of the way. She landed trusting she would be American, only to find herself a woman of color in America, radiant in the irritant chemical that makes her black hair and obsidian eyes threatening, her beauty and agelessness horrifying to the obsolescence of white supremacy. Nucleation or phagocytosis, what is the metaphor? When you are in the blackness of a vortex, distant shorelines shimmer, but trusting to be safe is like being oil in water. The melting pot is an immiscible emulsion. We didn't break a physics we didn't invent. Los guanacos llegaron ya y llegaron bailando ricacha. We are the kids our ancestors saved, our bodies hoisted above gravity's death zone, lifted onto shoulders to look over disembarking crowds as if we could recognize relatives seen only in photos, held in laps while planes broke free into a space and time fell deep inside bellies. As a liberating motion sickness, we are the bubbling boundary of a force, the magnetism of tide, our faces pressed against portraits and tasked with naming resemblances. We live in a cultivated solipsism of familial memory. At the same time, we can be afraid constantly. I live as a demonstration of fear, and I find myself sad, numb, crying from it. Fear is the abundance of a hormone lit on fire like a forest. That important burning opens interstitial pauses between us, between our families. It is like a learning. Ricacha, ricacha, ricacha. Así llaman en Marte, cha cha cha, cha cha cha, cha cha cha, cha cha cha. There is comfort in the impossibility for an immigrant who fears not being able to return home in the regularity of patterns that start over and over again, that break and run, that break and touch, that break and run, that break and touch, that break and run, that break and touch. Back in 1978, a couple, fondly regarded in their neighborhood, are walking past a local radio station. They are run over by a car. Ricacha, ricacha, así llaman en Marte, cha cha cha. The car will have U.S. consul license plates. The car will disappear. The clothes are stripped from the bodies of these two new grandparents. Their identification taken. The radio station makes a live appeal, which my father and my uncle both hear. My mother is at home with my brother. The appearance and disappearance of the car. The transformation of walking bodies to laying bodies, dying bodies, transforms the scenery. My obsession with archive is the rubbing of fabric. As a child, the sucking of my teeth, biting my nails, altering my moods, my breathing, is driving at night, is giving over to impulse, is sweating at parties, is the ringing in my ears, is the stomach pain, is running, 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 running. Affect moves through time and space in gradations of intensity that increase and dissipate, writes Mica Cárdenas. Timestamps can mark that movement. She is writing toward the awareness of a science on the generalized sickness of being targeted by violence that all too quickly fades into the atmosphere, a contagion spread through one's investment in investigating the historical details that make us, the paranoia, to use another concept, a survival paradox, anxiety. Aliens who are feeble-minded, aliens who are insane, aliens who are insane, aliens who are insane, aliens who are feeble-minded. I often feel like I'm missing out, like I have missed out. I also feel fractured by the constant sounds, by a stamping and the paranoia that follows. Politics is felt, a rhythm of relationships coming in close and far to a warmth. I suffer from tissue panic. I worry about tissue and am paranoid for the bodies enveloping various histories of tissue. I am overwhelmed by touch. I have only seen my grandparents in 2 photos. I cried for weeks after hearing the recorded voices of children in detention centers yelling. I felt insane. Ricacha, ricacha, ricacha. Así llaman en Marte el cha-cha-cha. My mother performed a miracle. My mother never turned off the processes that flicker silent in states of emergent threat. The fetus inside her body twitched and wormed, absorbed and unfolded. Survival is an investment. The tenuousness of the miracle that embraces trauma and survival is not lost on me. Aliens who are feeble-minded, aliens who are insane. I also happen to believe that the Hispanics, aliens who are afflicted with tuberculosis in any form, or with leprosy, or any dangerous contagious disease, aliens who have had one or more attacks of insanity, aliens afflicted with psychopathic personality, epilepsy, or a mental defect, who are polygamists, who are prostitutes, who are beggars. Tissue refers to a group of cells assembled together in a body. It is of one common origin, which is embryonic. Aliens who are narcotic drug addicts or chronic alcoholics. An ideational landscape is one whose context is vulnerable to care and exploitation. Well, I don't know whether I want brown grandbabies. Well, I don't know whether I want brown grandbabies. I grew up along the Mexico-US border, meaning I could see it from my driveway. In summer, I could smell the river engorging the wetland. Diaspora is not any one thing. Refuge is a stone marker of a place. Los guanacos llegaron ya. Refuge is a seat where refuge is waiting. The persecuted sits during recognition. Refuge follows identification. The sounds of refuge can be recorded on cell phones and people made to listen or pretend they do not understand the release of hormones when a certain pitch repeats, repeats, and repeats that a stone marker is in sight can be recognized. Los guanacos llegaron ya. Y llegaron bailando ricacha. It's called inheritance and it's called trauma. Between a generation, stories of monsters span across gaps like gooey bridges. The act of naming moments bonds generations, locations, emotions. Through storytelling, I can smell the musk of a fevered creation, and I can sense the shrinking distance between it and my two sweet, warm, and loving grandparents. When my mother would hold me in her arms and retell this history, the vibrations through her breastbone coded the act of survival as love and dusted that sense of security with brilliant jewels that release an internal tension the way veins inside a piano make music. Thank you all.
Say thank you so much for that, for starting us off so strongly. Y'all show some love for Jose in the chat. Next up, we have Cal Bedient. Keep the love going, and Cal, up to you.
Well, that's certainly hard to follow. Thank you very much for that. The first poem is called On the Way. It's dedicated to Susan McCabe, Brenda Hillman, Elena Byrne, other romantics. The epigraph is from Dominique Foucault. The unspeakable is the suffering. Gathering night juice like the heavy lashes of Hedy Lamarr, the rose of day is head over heels among the stars. My train courses like a mother looking for her child on the dead side of the fish, the deer. I entered the last of the evening a whale, seeking the reality that wounds it. I have a ticket to a de-becoming. I am audiophile of the all-aboard mouth. A gilded peacock, my wound is sewn to my spine. Is it the same as everybody's bird? I suppose they are punched out by the millions. Still, I am lulled by my train's iron song, its run rabbit speed. I hug it, it purrs, its wheels knead my chest. I must be enormous. Sometimes my stomach leaps straight up in my body as when a boy pumps a swing with sexual joy, no one watching. It's then that I thank my wound for its abandon. Someone dropped the key to my wound down a grate. Why? To keep me from it? Would I peddle it? Muck it up with my slaver? In the high example of Homeric counsel, I asked Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, occasional sharer of my bed, if the philosophers were right to declare me figurative, the victim of an ontological rift. He laughed, farted, heartily ate a few flies. The refugees lining the tracks howl at me as I pass. But am I too not a refugee internally? Can't they see that the train goes ever farther without advancing? I was born in each of the decayed American towns along the tracks. I share their dullness and desuetude. That's why I want to be Apollinaire's Allrose. But is it deadly to breed the Allrose? Is there no thing in that other place, no delicacy of the senses, like Van Eyck's 15 gradations of pink on a thigh? Oh, to zip like a skinny Jesus bug over the water without denting it and stop instantly in the purity of stillness. We lie on earth's back like an infant turned wrong way to the milk. I exhaust. I am worldly exhaust. When I'm blue, my train's harmonica carries far over the empty prairie, Johnny Ray. Smelling of sweat and low pay, I shovel shadows into the firebox of memory. Vallejo urged, let us love actualities. I waited for those that would move my affections. They came, they were shadows, they died. Oh, Johnny Ray. The next poem is called Being Here, as in being here. I am's floating face down in the swamp. Hear the post-Edenic loudspeakers cry, it's life and death, prostate and Ashkenazi breast. Come, let's gather the intelligence of the wavering underwater blue-spotted and devil rays, while guitars lick the labia of love songs. It is the world to which we have been assigned. Take towel, soap, a change of fair garment and song. Leave your wallet and ring. Enter. But oh, what a crafty little spider you are, Felice, not yet crushed on extreme grass in naked green fire, nor astonished like the elm when the chainsaw's grinding teeth turn it on. Oh, porn hour in the woods of mad excitement. Who made a provision for sublime pain and adrenaline when we were designed, the panting marathon of exploding breaths? The wind blows hard against unitary objects, but no death just now, no death anywhere except on earth. There one sees everywhere how death devouring has wormed in. The math on his t-shirt, a bloody zero. Above all, don't start singing, as soft-bellied poets call it. Poetry is what it is, Felice, a thing of haunted noises, running in flames, running you down like a pig truck. It will happen. It will happen, my dear Felice. Consider this. Take the still, warm wheat fields. Take your token share in the wide and gentled phylum of your kind, a kiss to your genteel kind, and see if you, even you, can buy off the sublime, or kill it off, shove it up like a fire into unlicensed darkness until you cry, it's dead, the sublime is dead. But you want a bit of ecstasy, right, Felice? You're not sure? Then if your taste for terror and pain is not enough, take an Uber to the Wait Here hotel, and an Airbus will come along for you and a burnt-out star or two who likewise have never been properly welcomed, or told the truth, or been subscribed to, or sung to, or patted on the head, but only patted down, or maybe kicked in the stomach in the schoolyard. And then what? I don't know, Felice. I'm not a long-distance swimmer. I tried water, treaded it down, but it whooshes back again, like every fatal, bullying thing. The third poem is shorter. It's called Reflections in a Wooden Eye, and I don't know what that means. But any good wood is my warm forest tongue. Through the air trembles an invisible crowd. Mine is the gentle giant eating a green bug. He hasn't galloped off with anyone, do you see? He tramples on my foot, my lute, but he stays. Who else walks on flowers eating strawberries? He cradles me who is strangely quiet. No evil attends him if you let him lick your cheek. If you fold your hands around his neck, he won't shriek. Ah, but the cedars die, the last choir of the fire. He blinches. He has entered a rock. Look inside. You see your father shining an apple on his hip. Then his face like a fish. Then hers, dark hair sweeping over it. The next poem is called Do You Want It or Not? He roams across Wyoming, the king does, at the rear of a bus. One by one, the passengers leave their seat and greet him. Night's overhead lights shine like drops of oil on black oars. You give in again to the gods, the one stretched out on the back row. After all, he's a touch odorous and unignorably near. Climb aboard him, help yourself, duped as you are by indifferent hormones. Surrender to the Lord of convulsive spendings. Already the late hour relieves you of your thick personal rind. You are no longer a yolk and an egg in the dark of wide Wyoming. For now, you don't need to throw bucketfuls of duration against time. What a mixed blessing that he's not in another galaxy, but instead here in the soothing road noise, the gorgeous dark. Music in the harbor of sound is the last poem. Absolute silence is terrible. The sea has withdrawn. We are no longer green. Let sound trickle back imperceptibly, seawater creeping up the auditory shore, as if to say, do you see? Though you are not evergreen, sound is always near, if unheard, as when a radio is turned down all the way. Figures of vibrations frog and congregate in radiophonic space. They creep up close and lick your ear. As the sea is in our eyes, our pink tongue, the blue pits of our knees, so sound is the body under the blue skirt of the air. And 3 octaves below, the clear green of sea, the constancy streams. From the dun thicket of an edited sound, articulation springs like a ballerina from the wings. Its breath is caramel when it beams through the blinds. We live in sound like an ear in love. Life slips away, a glossy magazine off a napper's lap, until music shakes us awake again. A Diana bathes naked, a long ticking bomb in a pond in the woods, hoping to be offended by being seen. How unhappy. It is better to sit in the dark and glow, a Daphne in the light of the radio. Moments when we know what to listen for, a great gathering of bottles, bobbing, jostling, clacking in the tossing sea. It is all that remains of us when the circumstantial proof of existence is gone. Then everyone will be alike, hollow and noisy, firm and see-through, recklessly touching, insensate, joyful, the music of the absolute, extending farther than the ears can reach. For the cadence of the finite is the infinite. Only faint hearts would fear to be so free.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cal. That was wonderful. It is really special to hear you read. Thank you. Um, y'all show Cal some love in the chat. His Omnidawn book is Clouds Upside Down Among the Flowers. And next up is John Cross, whose Omnidawn book is What Bleak Angels Carried Your Bed. Show some love for John.
Okay, this first piece I'm going to read is comes from the first section of the book, populated by an avatar named Matthias, who is trapped in repetition and stasis, always ending where he begins, kind of like us these days, those of us who think and feel. Matthias and the point of reference. The orange was exactly opposite him, that is, 10 or 15 oranges to the left of the orange, where the landing orange emerged from the orange. A sudden orange in the orange caused it to disappear. When, after forcing himself to keep his oranges in the same orange for several seconds, he saw it again, he was not quite sure he was looking at the same orange. Other oranges in the orange looked just as much like, or unlike, the 2 coupled oranges whose orange he still remembered. A piece of orange fell from the sheltered orange of the landing orange, colliding with the orange from its sloping orange. The periodic orange of this orange occurred just where the orange of blue orange was floating, and it was engulfed with a slapping orange. Some drops of orange were splattered against the oranges, just as a more powerful orange of orange again submerged them and reached as far as the oranges, trailing down to the little orange reflecting oranges. Before it had time to disappear between the oranges, this orange was suddenly darkened, as if by the orange of some great orange. Matthias raised his eyes. The orange imperturbably described again with the same orange its horizontal orange. Oranges motionless and outspread, and a double orange between the slightly drooping oranges. One round orange fixed on the orange, or the orange of the orange, or nothing at all. Next poem was inspired by the aroma of a small room where the United Methodist women stored clothing and stuff, furniture for their annual thrift sales. The Methodists' rockets, controlled explosion, and you. Tried solving it at the church bazaar. Salt glows from the remnants. Leave-taking, purpled with a desire to touch, I do. Muddy cumin of damp wood in the gym alcove. Scratchy frou-frou in a muddle of fug. Would you do me a blurb right here? All these mysterious houses graved out in bright latex red. A humanizing. Twin. A twin could speak at birth. There was drinking, singing, some cried. Put this someplace private. Gunny sack with a glint figuring shadows. Unearthing hellos, meat pies, primo thrift sales, all good children, 10, 9, 8, 7. This next poem was written as we were coming out of the pandemic. A volcano half consumed holds its crater. Wind-swept world, I watch them pull down the hollow bronze statues. Soldiers crumple, swallowed by the howls of their hats, closing like time-lapse flowers in reverse under the weight of their own plinths. Candles drop like parachutes from the stars through the swirls of dust and smoke, charring Uncle Pennybags stuck in his tub at the edge of the crater. As a child, I left a water bowl inside the door for love when I heard the raptors in my head. Now I leave the door ajar and a cup of wine set out for the guarded night in the shadow of the volcano. Sometimes we forget to say hello. A young woman tears up as she recognizes her teacher who's grown old. A president's thrown his people to the wolves. In the dawnlessness, the sun screws up its eyes to peer through its tiny periscopes. This one's for my mom. How to be a sonnet. Shine the flashlight under your chin, buoyant monastery. Hold the bread under your arm, fall quietly. My mom drying baby's breath on a small day with no edges. A night with no moon. Once again, I've discovered nothing. These last two are all about Ohio, which haunts me forever, and the vanishing fauna and missing things from my childhood, etc. Endangered animals of Ohio. Muggy July rigging sprung and lacunide, its slip trap who's never known the ropes. Pedaling a stolen bike under the moon, all fractured and scattered in rows of stitches. I climb and glide to the midnight sidewalk sale, and I'm wads of string untuned and tangled into these attending spaces between words and their phantom limbs. Was I not once the fiercest and cruelest, seeking a purer language as true and starless as a grave in wool? It should have been easy. Blossoms in spring and fruit in fall. I can't keep things straight anymore. We trudge away dressed in mud like stars dug out of the earth, our hearts the heavier from pride openings. Sacrifice perimeter, village of ghosts, let's do Monday. There's no horizon there. Only the fragments of the present tense of a warm July evening, illumined by Messiah searchlight glares, preachers of commerce hawking their wares, and at home the promise of someone's walking on the moon, mute, invisible, and on fire, and every bird of every sort, and Mitchell's satyr butterfly. This last piece is Dudley's Massacre. Everything keeps pulling to the left margin, toward a point of origin, a strumming of zithers, a full stretch of the slingshot, not far from the soft-serve ice cream palace. Plumes of summer clouds, sudden storms, something cool, sweet, and fleeting. I went fishing with my dad once not far from here, near the library, where the Indian guides and the screeches of metal folding chairs made us uncomfortable. So we left the library and fished the Saturday morning rapids. Later, from garage and basement, I am-pegged a deeper thunder through the neighborhood, something they could feel. But someone stole the amplifier. Now the bees have been Africanized, so they'll have to go away too. The big cats in the zoo still pace their cages. Someone thought we should call it the corrections system. Someone else thought we should trust Exxon. I wonder who will collect the damage deposit. Their truck's rumbles, screes, and backup beeps. From this distance, I mistake the wind for voices, gathering Queen Anne's lace and lupins outside the old workhouse, prying loose the boarded window with my belt buckle. Black bear, graceful underwing. We didn't catch anything that Saturday 40 years ago. There's so little left in the river that metaphors don't make sense here anymore. The only signified is revenant and transport. I'll wait here, floating for a moment, cartoon coyote over the abyss, seeking a sacred space chosen for its echoes. Hello.
Thank you so much, John. That was really powerful. Y'all show John some love in the chat and slide over to pick up his book, What Bleak Angels Carried Your Bed. Next up, we have Keith Jones representing Las Palmas. Show some love for Keith.
Hello, thank you all for being here. I feel very honored to be able to lift my voice to the chorus of voices today. These are ancestral poems, and they seek a kind of repair of the fractured histories and languages that I inherited. It's a song suite. There's 6 sections. I'll read from the first 2 continuously. But I also want to frame it with one of the epigraphs of the manuscript, which is by the great Sylvia Wynter, theorist, historian, scholar, Jamaican and Cuban, one of the most important thinkers, I would argue, in our time. I and others would. And the epigraph reads, "The central strategy of the system is the colonization of desire." Lost Girl names a continent. While on Earth, light brown mixed island brown, hard to see, light-skinned vellum or parchment, ink sheathed, the boy in me, polishing the sun. Isles of mother's eyes inside, abuela. You smile at me and become a dove. Squint through losses, glare, sky's asylum, and orphaned son. Stitch by stitch, the larger braid, oracle wind blue, that is water. Loft arc, down lash, sky pierce, I work where gravity is torn. I'm neither city nor body count, but I do know how to die. All my deaths, which keep happening. Picnic basket, cottonwoods rifled, wind-tossed clouds, I'm cusp, my daughter, circle and sphere. We'd spent a day on earth, bayed the white oak, the hour hand, chased our birth and portal of your laugh sparkles, sharp blown peonies, fuchsia apart, deep canyon blue, petals blue, cerulean, now ink. Some other mystery lay within me, swept along blue-black seas, numbered and innumerable, eddy of branchwork, phantom swoosh of limbs. How old this lantern boat? It is night, and I hum to keep dry. The rain is what the phone does, throng of possibilities within the compass of sutures, the abyss. While we lie here backwards looking, parting early and last like lo siento, we close our eyes, restore what these dreams tonight will traffic in. Without consternation or address, we lie like that, thieves of long labor. My lover still beside me at dawn. I didn't mean to write this book. Stories of her childhood shot through where she touched weather's creation. Diaspora is phrase. Her body lay beside, in waves about to bloom, swift like addicts. Let me crush myself into this beer can, little spoon and parachute. Made of string, my father at the end of, nomadically wrapped in all the winds constant and improvised. Without a feather, in the forest of dreams, I crossed the waters with fable, shaper of worlds for the gardens you love. Tree branch, lime and gray, wild with moss covers our weeping. I, migrant, echoing, adorned and strafed. Endless sojourn, midday, clouds, windows, passing cars. Physics is bliss. I couldn't see what you saw when you closed your eyes. Night turning wind, my sister, in my mother's house singing. By dawn, we could have been other. Birds flew out of rain, one keen syllable, incumbent air brushwork where you hang oceans in ribbon, you point, vow to mirror and become flesh. Book of Many Suns. The rain had to make a choice. In many ways, it had already happened. Home bundled old and new selves along the river, happenstance without permission. Drift of my love, whose mystic ardor confusion gives. Alone in the alone of a theater, swift tonight, the world and you, what I had hoped to have my thinking touch. Yet somehow what I held was not her, but the island she came from, stolen Genesis on her lips, Jesus medallion at her neck, lace of Spanish words forever at her hem, rich port. Seams stressed in the flatlands, faint gold Buick on the 101. Nightcraft in the sea dark of time, the moon went missing in the back room, woven thing, sheet pierced, bird lave, sea loam, cloven child, wound bone, and darkened hood, turning, hands, needle, threadbare light. I carry a knife into my dream, blade across world's quiet, silent tree, ecstatic, axe to burn its residual star, wait as mirage lifts. Fleetingly, an interplay of air. I claim the angel incomplete. I claim its passage. I claim its wound, stone upon stone, in limitless epistle. I'd gone to witness you, canticles fatigued but urgent. Late afternoon ride to the ruins, bamboo flute and medicine of moss, white birch, jay's lone feather, ancestors, salt tears, now sibling. This place I knew, not home. Continents aflame, Arctic calving, you roll down the window, bare zone of the void. I see your dream recur, continental and Caribbean. Her body in ink, your body in ink. Glance frame, star gust, and you, lone, bereft bird, empress of inner states. I thought to write you, but saw your face, already dire. The heat of it spun into clay. I lost you there, in the wash of metaphysics. An atlas of the intimate so blue, that's what's happening everywhere. Cloud wastes conceal imperial designs, settled ledges off which flags become shrouds, where I and outside merge, watch where my looking is. No entiendo. I loved her too much and not well. Many spirits abandoned in our arabesques. I could not with, I could not for. Diversities laid vast in tight quarters in runaway tongues. At a certain hour, horizon light illumines that cliff we climbed, and that cliff was made of stone, and your face was made of clay, and the wind made the stone cold, and the wind made the stone smooth, and we walked an interstate to an empty room, married in a place of abandonment. Lost girl names a continent. I want to risk the forest ahead. Night ride, brisk tomb, hours and hours. I will turn to it so I don't forget where the fabric fades. Sunday flowers and a ray of wealth.
Thank you, Keith. That was really lovely. Y'all show Keith some love in the chat and be sure to pick up Las Palmas. Next up, we have Maria Nazos. Maria, take it away. Show some love for Maria, you guys.
Sure thing. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to read from Pulse, and I'm equally grateful to everyone from Evan for emceeing, and of course, Rusty and Laura, who have made this book what it is. So I'll start out with this one titled In Delphi, I watch a goat run to and away from my father's hands. And if you're a fan of the electronic recording artist Peaches, then this one's for you. He opens his eyes, the color of its gray coat, his chest dressed in a single gold cross, marking faith in a God he's seen and never met, pressing it against his sealed lips. The goat's eyes shine like early frost. Apostasia, serrated blade, buildings whitewashed to confuse enemies. I was vapor as we sat in the Mazda, honeysuckle invading our empty lungs when he broke for the hill, staggered on his stubborn limbs. Maroon red champion sweatshirt staining the stone-walled hill that divided the island. Knife-toting goon. The first time I saw him move that fast, I had lipstick on my lips. The first blood had not yet fallen. Grease, a row of locked doors, fogged by his anise breath as my mother shuddered, the family waiting for me on the balcony at dawn. IUD, SIS, stay in school. It's the best, says the rebel woman's song. Go to hell, says my father, boots pounding up the hill through thistle and poppy. Red, velvet red, how I wish you red. Red without black, red without stones, despite the almost dead. His shoulders suspended midair, he reaches for the skittish goat that bolts to and away from his grip. I am 13, just this once, as he holds the body still, alive in his arms. Hills ripple, waves around his legs, and again I am shoving open the car door, walking slowly into a salmon-streaked dawn, marching back to an island home I should leave. I am returning to my father the way petals return to branches in a world of forever spring. And although I am far off to hear, I can see by how his eyes closed that he's reaching to hold what's both here and gone. I hope you caught the Peaches reference. The next one's titled Still Life. And a couple of women, namely one local woman where I live in Nebraska, went missing and lost her life to a really, really gory crime. So trigger warning for lyrical references to violence. This one is titled Still Life. It's kind of an homage / elegy. Girl with funhouse mirrors tacked above her bed, a row of goldfish on her desk. Girl with a bathrobe, the same pale green as her soap dish, slipping brass knuckles into her jeans. Girl with dirt, girl with a fake diamond ring for a knife, girl with a supervising angel made from faulty suspension wire. Girl with a sequin top in a blank field beside an empty barn. Its swinging shutters a soft feeling red. Girl with a fading heart and an eraser rubbing it out, and a score of locals calling off the dogs on a night in which the dogs stood silent beside the half-dug pit. Girl with a girl inside her, stepping from her rib cage, severing the silver cord between her body and earth. The girl from the girl's body watches 19 candles huffed out at the speed of light. Seas below where yellow tape waves in imaginary breeze as land tills itself to blanket the aftermath of a life now covered with hope and dust. By a thief in the sky who let this happen, by a bell ringer on earth whom she never heard coming, who heard her first and left her silent, hoping that she would never be found. And if anyone's had a weird, creepy, but nonetheless lovable landlord, this one's for him. This is, I guess, another semi-elegy. to get a little bit more lighthearted. It goes out to my former landlord when I lived in the Bronx, Alan Scher, and yes, all this is real. It's titled Bacchus. Put a crown of vines on his head, plucked from the one good garden on the block. Drape him in a king-size bedsheet, still not large enough to cover his swollen belly. Rub his belly, his bald head. Tell him to fuck off when he says your tits are in his face. Despite his dirty jokes, never once will he touch you. Ignore the porn that blares from a small TV when he scoops up his black and white rescue cat, named either 8-Ball or Crackhead, depending on the day. Laugh when he takes the animal in his mouth so it hangs by its scruff. Remember that apartment complex he oversaw? The hallways stacked with dusty newspapers and corners of cat shit? Focus not on making this man into a god that night of the Greeks and Romans party. Recall how he was the keeper of broken things, Vanity, the tragically beautiful stripper who ran bruised from her ex-lover and into his bed, the guy he called Ron Jeremy, who bore an uncanny resemblance to the star, whose canceled eyes and slowed speech didn't stop your slumlord from giving him odd jobs, the ex-con whose hands were registered deadly weapons, whose sad eyes trapped him more than the bars he lived behind. You, the naive, mouthy Midwestern girl, sprung into the city like a happy rat. It was he who always picked you up from the airport, who said nothing for months when you couldn't pay rent, who listened plunger in hand while you sobbed after a date with a man whose hands you managed to barely pry off your thighs and send home. Years later, you'd learn his heart gave out like a dung-pressed diamond, his life an Olympus piled high with booze and pills and lap dances, and that night before the party, you put the crown of wild vines on his head. And you realize this is the God, the Father, and the Holy Ghost you've always wanted, too heavy to hang from any cross, flawed and forgiving, and forever tethered to earth, wheezing beneath the weight of his dirty human sweetness. Okay. Here, back to serious, I think. If you've met me for 5 minutes, you know that I have a couple of different forms that I love, 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 love so much. And one of them is, of course, the pantoum. So I'll read Cape Cod pantoum for you. And this is yet another one where I'm like, I wish my poems weren't autobiographical, and yet here we are. Cape Cod pantoum. Tonight you're loaning Billy your car, a brand new seal gray Volkswagen Passat with 4 doors. Though last week at 3 a.m. he stole your canoe and sank it in the autumn sea and then swam ashore. Tonight you're lending Billy your car, it's brand new. And he's a well-meaning, blue-eyed, Byronic drinking man who last week at 3 a.m. stole your beached canoe. And when it sank, he blamed it on a dolphin. A well-meaning, blue-eyed, Byronic, hard-drinking man whose phone calls you'll take no matter the hour, who sank your canoe and blamed it on a dolphin. And the young man with him whom the sea sadly devoured. So you'll always take Billy's call, no matter the hour, because, you sigh, his mother's dying too and he's drinking again. He's no longer a young man. He's sad and he's drowning, and neither are you, and all friends sometimes sin. Besides, you sigh, his mother's dying too, and that's why he's drinking. She wasn't a beauty. She came on to you long ago, and he's not a young man. He's drunk and he's drowning, so you press the phone to your cheek and stare out the dark window. Who hasn't come on to you? Who wasn't lovely long ago? Even Billy did his tragic need, his blank blue eyes. So you press the phone to your cheek and stare out the dark window. And you listen to him make a mess of our peaceful lives. Now, back in bed, we return to our disrupted romance. Although last week at 3 a.m. he stole your canoe. You set a sinking man adrift in the sea of second chance. So tonight, you've loaned Billy your car, again, brand new. Okay, thank you.
Maria, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Y'all show Maria some love in the chat and make sure that you get Pulse from Omnidawn directly from you of Chicago. I think LM wasn't able to join us. So I think that was it for our readings today. Incredibly, I feel like we just got started. I want to thank all of the authors. We started off with José Alvergue, Cal Bedient, John Cross, Keith Jones, and Maria Nazos. Y'all, please show some love for them. I'm gonna move into gallery so you can see them all, and also bring Omnidawn's publisher Rusty Morrison up to say a few words. Rusty, take.
It's such a pleasure to see all and hear all of these poets. Some I haven't seen, and certainly some of you I haven't heard actually reading. And it's such a pleasure to hear the poems from our spring 2026 authors. And I'm thrilled and delighted again to thank Evan Karp, what he does for us every year. These books that you've heard poems read from are unforgettable. Of course, every book is unforgettable in its own right, if it's a good book. But I will say that these books have three things in common. The first is that the authors use both form and content to bring us to new ways of experiencing the world around us and the people who inhabit our lives. Second, they use arresting sensory detail to give readers insights into the protagonist's experiences, and thus allow us to live vicariously and thus come to our own conclusion and insights about those experiences. And third, these authors embody, each in their own way, Omnidawn's mission, which is to publish work that both questions in form and content the prevailing limits of convention, and to explore both internal and external boundaries, and to find the means to push with compassionate insights the limits of risk. All of these poets risk in amazing ways, some with lyricism, some with humor, some in relation to the socioeconomic dynamic that they offer us, and some in their forms. So I'm just so grateful to all of them. It's a privilege for me to be co-publishing this press with Laura Joachimson, who's sitting next to me, and with the guidance of our advisory board to continue to renew and reinvigorate the press. And I want to thank all of you who are watching and who care about Omnidawn's books. Thank you for trusting us with your time and attention on a Sunday afternoon. And thank you to the board. And thank you to the board who give us our guidance, which is very necessary in these troubled times. And to our interns and volunteers and staff.
Thank you, Rusty and Laura and everybody at Omnidawn. Major congratulations again to all of you authors. And like Rusty said, thank you all so much for joining us today. If you missed any of the reading, we do have a recording and we'll have it up in the next day or so. If you would like to relive it, you can send me an email, just evan@quietlightning.org, and I'll be happy to send you the link. Yeah. Thank you all. Oh, I should say Omnidawn is accepting submissions for their open book contest right now, judged by the wonderful Julie Carr. So you could be an Omnidawn author and join us and read one day with one of these events. Thank you guys all.
So
again.
good. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I just loved hearing everyone's poems and seeing your faces. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day and take care.
Thank you. Bye.